What is going on, Six Borough Nation? How we living? How we feeling? Today is Sunday, December 21st, and it's officially Christmas week. So let me be the first to wish you all a Merry Christmas, and I hope you all getting what you're asking for this year because you all deserve it. And I'd like, if it's not too much trouble, to ask you all to do me a favor for Christmas. That's all I want is if you're enjoying the podcast, which if you're still listening to me, I really hope that means you are. I hope that you can find it in your heart to tell one person you know about the podcast. Just one. Tell them to like, share, subscribe, listen to it. Your mother, your best friend, your grandma, a coworker, I don't care. Tell one person about it, and it will mean the world to me. So with that, let's get right into it. The biggest story this past week, the one team in the New York area that can actually make people happy, and it's the New York Knicks winning the NBA midseason tournament. And not only winning the NBA midseason tournament, but 2 days ago, Jalen Brunson's late game heroics against the Indiana Pacers, which caught a patented Mike Breen double bang. That was very exciting. And, you know, the main thing about this NBA Cup final game, and I'm honestly not going to lie, I thought the Knicks were out of it by the third quarter. They seemed a little bit disinterested. It seemed like the Spurs wanted it more. Wemby was being the absolute freak of nature that he is, and he was affecting the game in all facets. He was making it like the Knicks were just having a terrible time running an offense. But they somehow kept hanging around, and they kept it close. They kept it within a couple possessions. There was a point where the Spurs brought it to about 10 points, and the Knicks climbed back out of that hole. And the fourth quarter started, and the momentum completely shifted after a pair of back-to-back Jordan Clarkson threes, and the Knicks finally had the lead back. And they had never looked back from that point. And Clarkson was not the only reason for this win because the entire team contributed in one way or another. Every single guy on that court that stepped onto that court played a part in it. Jalen Brunson, I mean, it's just automatic for him at this point. 25 points, 8 assists. OG Anunoby had a phenomenal game with 28 points. Karl-Anthony Towns, he was a warrior. He was battling through injury. You saw him in midway through the third quarter. He looked like he was in excruciating pain on the bench, but somehow he came back late in the fourth to spell Mitchell Robinson, who had himself a great game, and they needed him to have a great game. He had 15 rebounds, and the Big East's own Tyler Kolek had a coming out party of sorts because without him, the Knicks do not win this game. He had 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists off the bench that all seemed to come at critical times of the game. Coach Mike Brown is continuing to push all the right buttons with this squad, and it led the Knicks to get their first trophy in a very, very long time. And the biggest thing about this is that the Knicks clearly demonstrated their will to want to come back and win. As I said earlier, the first 3 quarters of the game, it really did look like the Spurs wanted it more. They were struggling. The Knicks were struggling on offense. And like I said, when you have Wemby standing in your way between you and the rim, it's going to be a little hard to get shots to fall, right? But for whatever reason, the Spurs took Wemby out of that game for more than just a moment at a time. And it definitely affected the flow of things. Like the Knicks took full advantage of whenever Wemby was not in the game. And they really battled back and took control. And they turned it on when it really mattered, when it got into the fourth quarter, when they were fully ready to take control of that game. And they did it. And having a high pressure situation like this and battle testing yourself and giving yourself this true litmus test on where the Knicks are going to be and how they're going to perform when the lights are the brightest, and making a push to their first NBA Finals since 1999. I was 5 years old when that. I don't even think I was 5. I might have been 4 still. And their first championship since 1973. To put that into perspective, my dad is going to retire next year. And he wasn't even in high school the last time the Knicks won an NBA Finals. Dad, I'm sorry, but that's a long time ago. And the Knicks right now are the city's best shot to end the city's championship drought. And it's the most beloved team in New York, even only to the Yankees. But the reason that the Knicks are beloved this much is because we don't have a divided fan base. No one's really divided 50-50 the way that the Rangers and Islanders are, or even the more like, it's mostly like Rangers 50%, Devils 25, Islanders 25. Let's all be real here. It's not Mets versus Yankees. It's not Jets versus Giants. It's just the Knicks. And that's where I think a lot of New York City fandom lacks, is because we don't have common teams that we all root for. Having as many teams as we do, it divides our fan bases, it divides the population. But the Knicks are the one team in the area that really gets everyone together. Everyone can get behind them because they are so likable, but they play so hard. They play great defense. They have guys like Josh Hart who are true glue guys who do everything you want. They hit big shots. They rebound. They're not intimidated by anyone. They just go out and ball. And I know that I'm gushing over them winning a exhibition game. We all know that NBA Cup final game does not count towards the actual standings. All it was a tournament that, in the end, it's just an appetizer. And that's like that Nike advertisement that they put on 34th Street. This is just an appetizer. This Knicks team has their sight set on bigger things. And you can tell that the way they acted like that because of how they responded against the Indiana Pacers on Thursday. They put this win behind them already. It was just another win to them. They enjoyed it. I'm sure they went out and partied in Vegas after, and they deserved to. But they immediately said back to business. And that game against Indiana was the ultimate type of trap game. Coming off an emotional, heavily watched victory that was lauded for how great the game was, how much effort the Knicks had put in. The Knicks could have easily just said, "Now we're going to take it easy this game." They could have said, "You know what? We're coming off this type of game where we just gave everything our all. We can afford a loss and not give everything we had." No, they went right at the Indiana Pacers, who are still a good team without Tyrese Halliburton. They might not have the star point guard, but they are still a well-rounded team. And the Knicks did not take the bait. They went and kept up their momentum. So, yeah, the NBA Cup was a ton of fun, but it showed us a lot about the Knicks' character and who they are as a team. And keeping it within MSG teams, the Rangers did have a really gutsy comeback win against the Flyers yesterday, coming back down 2 goals, with Panarin leading the way for the scoring for the Rangers with 2 goals. One in the shootout. Mika responded well after being benched. He had the game-tying goal late in the third, and that was a big win for the Rangers, especially after the way they dropped 2 games this week. Against the Ducks, Chris Kreider returning to the Garden for the first time, and the Rangers lose 4-1. And then they get shut out. They follow that up by getting shut out by a bad Vancouver Canucks team, who we are all well aware, that Quinn Hughes is no longer on the roster. But this is just a continuation of a very up and down year for the Rangers. Their last 8 games, OT lost to the Golden Knights, shut out by the Blackhawks, who are frisky, but they are not a great team just yet. OT win against Montreal, 4-1 loss to the Ducks, shut out by Vancouver, OT win versus the Blues, and then an OT win versus the Flyers. Right now, the Rangers are only a point back of the Devils for the second wildcard spot. And as long as the Eastern Conference continues to remain tight, I'm going to suspect that the Rangers are going to hang around and be battling for that second wildcard spot the entire year. I had written up this segment prior to this game, but I expected the Devils to actually be able to gut out a win against the Buffalo Sabres, especially because Jack Hughes, Arseny Gretzky, and Timo Meier all came back off of injury or leave of absence. And it's just the most Devils thing this year that they came out and got outworked by the Sabres. They should have won. They really, this is a game that they should have had. And it's very annoying that they lost. But this past week, they beat a really good Vegas team, albeit without Jack Eichel. And they beat a Utah Mammoth team who is also very frisky. Like, they're about 500 right now, but they are a very good hockey team also. Most of those wins were contested very closely. They were 2-1 scores at the end of each game. A lot of it had to do with the return of Brett Pesce, who up until tonight, I don't believe had lost with him in the lineup. And that's just a testament to how good of a defenseman he is in the National Hockey League, because while he was out, the Devils looked helpless on defense most nights. And they finally started getting it together with his first couple games back. Again, tonight withstanding, they really did look better in those couple games. But now they have to figure out just how to put the pucks in the net again, because right now their offense is completely dried up. And I think it has a lot to do with the Devils' style of play, where they are a very good rush scoring team. And if they aren't scoring off the rush, they don't know how to score. Their power play is like 0 for its last, I don't know how many attempts, but it has not scored in a very long time. And it used to be a very potent power play. And I'm really hoping that maybe with a little bit of rest for this Christmas break, they can come back after Christmas and do the opposite of last season, because we saw exactly how last season went, where they got to Christmas, they were lighting the league on fire, and then for whatever reason, they came back on Christmas and the wheels completely fell off the season. They went from dominating people to just it was stretches of some of the worst hockey you've ever seen for as talented as this team is. And Tom Fitzgerald saw that last year and decided to really only add Connor Brown as a free agent addition. And he's been good, but the rest of the team has not stepped up as of late. I know we're just getting these guys back from injury, but at some point, rubber needs to meet the road and the Devils need to get going here. And keeping things on Fitz and keeping the crosshairs on Fitz, the more that I see that comes out about this Quinn Hughes trade to the Minnesota Wild is just continuing to make me more and more angry. The reports are basically that the Devils would have landed Quinn Hughes for Dawson Mercer, Simone Nemec, and a first-round pick. But we were unable to clear the cap space to make that deal work. And it just so happens that the Devils have 14 players on the roster with some sort of no movement clause or no trade clause. That is malpractice. That is negligent. Not being able to get rid of those contracts is exactly the reason why Quinn Hughes is not a Devil right now and is not wearing a black and red sweater, particularly the contracts of Andre Palat and Dougie Hamilton, which I've already spoke at length so far the past couple episodes. But Andre, Dougie, I'm sorry, you guys have served with New Jersey admirably for your careers, but we no longer have a use for you in the lineup, especially if you are not going to be putting up points and you're going to be burning $15 million a year in cap space. Do you guys understand how much the Devils could improve with an extra $15 million in space? Not only could we be adding a Quinn Hughes, but we could be adding someone like a Tage Thompson or a Jordan Kyrou, real difference makers that could turn this team into somewhat contenders, mostly pretenders at this point, into literal juggernauts. And we aren't able to because Tom Fitzgerald is the most uncreative and incompetent GM in hockey. Kevin Adams just got fired from Buffalo for less than what Tom Fitzgerald has accumulated in his tenure. And that's why you have to hear me bitching moan about this every single episode, because I just cannot stand the incompetency. How is it that an average NHL fan like me can clearly see the shortcomings and the opportunities missed, but the GM whose job it is, who gets paid very handsomely to do, cannot make these things work? It is absolutely maddening. And we also got news today that Johnny Kovacevic is back at practice, and he is unable to come off of the long-term IR until the Devils clear the amount of cap space in his contract, because we were up against the cap at this point. So we have one of our best defensive defensemen coming back, and we can't even play him because we don't have the money in the cap space to do it. So someone is going to have to get traded, whether they like it or not. And it's going to probably define Fitz's tenure, who stays and who goes. Because if history is our guide right now, Andre Palat and Dougie Hamilton don't seem like they're going to be the ones to be moved. Speaking of maddening and embarrassing, the Jets and Giants, they're just, I guess they're respecting the tank, and I got to just tip my cap to them. Like, thank you guys for continuing to do it, because I really love bitching and complaining about the Jets and Giants all the time. I love it. It's my favorite. I'll tell you what, though, I cannot wait to never see Darius Slayton in a Giants uniform again. That is going to be one of the happiest days of my Giants fandom. That dude is such a loser, and he is so bad at catching footballs. He's a professional wide receiver that I'm seeing drop compilations come up on my Instagram reel like every other day, and each one is worse than the next. Like, some of these are just straight up egregious. And my favorite thing is when he drops these can of corn dime throws from Jackson Dart, even Danny Dimes, or even Tommy DeVito. And then he'll drop these perfectly thrown passes, and then he has the nerve to act like he's hurt and writhe on the ground in pain, and then he's up 5 minutes later completely fine, trying to pretend that he's hurt and like save face. Give me a break, dude. But, you know, that's the guy who Joe Shane decided to pay over Saquon. That's who Joe Shane decided to go with, the guy who can't catch, and when he drops important passes, fakes being injured. And not only that, he has a captain's letter on his chest. He has a C on his chest. And that tells you all you need to know about the state of this organization and the incompetence that is not only accepted, but is rewarded. You paid this man $18 million for a 3-year extension. $18 million a year. That could have been used to keep Saquon. Maybe the Eagles don't have a Super Bowl win last year if Saquon's not on the team. It's not like they needed the help. They're already a very good team, but you just pushed them over the edge by deciding to pay Darius Slayton. I don't know, man. Next week is going to be really fun with the dumpster bowl between the Giants and the Raiders, deciding who's going to get the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft. And we all better be praying that the Raiders come out today like they did against Houston, and Ashton Genty balls out like he did, because it's going to be a hilarious display of these two teams just trying to play football for 60 minutes. And you know the entire nation is going to have their eyes on that game not because it's going to be entertaining, but because they want to see, like, whoever loses this game is your number 1 overall draft position. And like I said last episode, we better damn well that we lose this game coming up. It is in our best interest to do so. I don't want to hear about how players don't tank. I don't want to hear about culture wins. I don't want to hear about how players are going to try their hardest. If this team has truly been trying its hardest all year, they should not be winning this game. And I'm hoping that Pete Carroll, who's basically going to be fired next season or let go, I think he'll be just allowed to leave on his own accord, because Pete is a very well-respected head coach in football. He's a Super Bowl champion, and he deserves to go out with a little bit of grace. I would like to see him go out and win a meaningless game against the New York Giants. And something that we learned of earlier this week too is Kayvon Thibodeau being placed on season-ending IR, and we might have seen him play his last game in East Rutherford as a Giant, I should clarify, which honestly really sucks because when the Giants drafted him, I really thought he was going to be special. And he was at times, but he wasn't consistent. Most of the times he was just okay. Truthfully, I don't know what I'd rather see the Giants do. I don't know if it's better to trade him or try and get him to take less salary for next year because he really hasn't earned this max extension that he's in line for. And I wonder if him being put on IR is a way for Joe Schoen to circumvent paying him as much as he thinks he's going to get, which he shouldn't be paid. He just shouldn't be paid that much money. And maybe he elects to go to free agency after next year if we don't franchise tag him either. And wherever he goes, I'm already just willing to accept he's going to flourish because he's going to be put in a system where it's going to develop him into the true pass rusher that we thought we were getting. And it's probably going to be a system that utilizes his strengths as opposed to whatever the fuck Shane Bowen thought he was doing. I don't know. Let me know what you guys want to do about Kayvon because I truthfully am stumped. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I really wanted him to be a great Giant. I thought he was going to flourish in New York. He had such a great personality. He still does. He has a great attitude, but he's just so underwhelming. And I really thought he was going to work out. And maybe they do keep him. Maybe they keep him because it's going to help Abdul Carter and Dexter Lawrence next year really flourish in the defense where we finally get a coordinator that knows how to scheme them properly. But for now, like I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I really want to hear from you guys on this. If the Giants do manage to not fuck this up and lose next week and we get the number 1 overall pick, I have a proposition. I think that the Giants should trade the number 1 overall pick to the New York Jets for Garrett Wilson, the Jets' first round pick, and a couple ancillary picks on top of that. This way, the Giants get some real help for Malik Neighbors across from them on the other side of the field. Jackson Dart gets another elite weapon. Wan'Dale can go back to operating out of the slot or operating as the third option. Wan'Dale is a good player. He's actually one of the few players that have developed well under Joe Schoen's tenure. But he cannot be a main option. He cannot be a number 2 in this offense. And if Malik is going to be coming off an ACL tear, he's not going to be at full strength next season. He's going to need someone to take pressure off of him on the defensive side and have someone attract the coverage from the defenses. And with this, the Giants get some much needed added draft capital to fill other holes. Maybe in the secondary, we can get an actual starting cornerback. We're going to have to pay Cordell Flott this offseason. I hope they do because Cordell Flott has been solid. And the Jets get their true franchise QB in Fernando Mendoza. And I really do think that Fernando Mendoza is the true number 1 overall pick here. Heisman winner. Congratulations, Fernando. And the Jets will finally claw out of QB hell for the last 10 years or so. And they can make that last the next 10 years. I think Fernando Mendoza has all the tools needed to be a great quarterback in the league. He's got poise. He has the leadership. He has the arm. He has the accuracy. But the Jets already have A.D. Mitchell and John Mechie who have filled in very admirably while Garrett Wilson has been out. They've looked pretty good despite having really no QB to throw to them. Tyrod doesn't count. Tyrod's a backup. Justin Fields, I don't even think he's been on the field with A.D. Mitchell or John Mechie. And Brady Cook, you're a nice story, but you're an undrafted free agent. And I wish you the best. Maybe you're good enough to be a backup, a third-string QB in this league and have a nice little career like that. I'm happy you were able to throw a touchdown pass in the NFL. But you're unfortunately not going to be the future of the New York Jets. I think if you give A.D. Mitchell and John Mechie a true quarterback, they can be dangerous, and you can supplement wide receiver picks later in the draft and also start rebuilding your defense because you're going to need to with Sauce and Quinnen both gone. So that's my bold take of this week. That's my hot take. Let me know what you guys think of that, because even if the Jets don't take it, the Giants should be forcing the Jets, the Cardinals, the Raiders, maybe even the Falcons or the Vikings. If the Vikings decide that they want to pull the plug on J.J. McCarthy, they should be forcing those teams into a bidding war to get that first overall pick and getting as much draft capital as they can, or even a established player that we know is going to help contribute immediately. Speaking of being bold, the New York Yankees are continuing to do anything but that. The last pieces of news that we got were the Yankees signing Paul Blackburn, and they want Ahmad Rosario to be taking reps at first base. And that's it. Brian Cashman, can you be serious for 1 fucking second, please? I mean, how many times are we going to do this? Aaron Judge is not going to be the best player in baseball forever. He's 34. We are in a very, very limited time window. Now, we cannot afford to let Aaron Judge become Don Mattingly. And you can't be bothered to sign a real first baseman or go out and get one relief pitcher. Suya Ime better be part of the plan. Bo Bichette better be part of the plan. Kazuma Akamoto better be part of this plan. These are guys that can come in and help us immediately. But who knows? They're probably going to go get signed by the Red Sox because they're actually trying to improve the team. They just traded for Wilson Contreras today. The Blue Jays and the Orioles have been consistently trying to improve the team, their teams, this offseason. But up in Yankee land, up in the Bronx, crickets, nothing. Seriously, has there ever been a general manager, not only baseball, in sports, that has done less with the most resources available to them? You're the New York Yankees. I'm sorry, but Brian Cashman, I'm not afraid to call you the worst GM in sports. The one true position player that you were able to develop in your 30-year tenure turns out to be the most transcendent hitter in baseball history besides Barry Bonds. And you can't be bothered to put a real team around him and just go out and we're going to have to hear Hal put a leash on you and keep you from spending and actually improving the team. No one wants to buy that. What the hell are we doing here? Like, this is so old at this point. I'm so sick of every offseason when the free agent that we were supposedly in on, or the player that we were going to be trading for, some other team comes out from under us and makes that trade. And we have to hear, oh, well, we weren't willing to pay the price that other teams had asked of us, or we couldn't come to an agreement on dollar figures. You're the motherfucking Yankees. No one wants to hear you cry poor. If our farm system is as good as you say it is and believe it is, trade some of those guys. Convince some of these GMs that are willing to make these deals and improve the team. This is madness. We still do not have a good enough bullpen. Our starting rotation is being held together with duct tape and Elmer's glue. I'm not banking on anyone being healthy for the start of the year. Garrett Cole coming back from Tommy John, I'm not expecting anything this year from him. He is no longer going to be the same pitcher that he was before he had to get Tommy John. We don't have a true right fielder. We don't have a true first baseman. We don't have a left fielder. We don't have a shortstop. The most important position in the game, and we don't have a solution at shortstop. Our plan right now at shortstop is to hope in year 4, Anthony Volpe finally figures out how to hit above 220 and not embarrass himself in the field. He can't even throw to first base without bouncing the ball. And that's our plan because he grew up a Yankees fan and he's from New Jersey. We're just going to let this kid ruin any chance of serious contention. How many more strikeouts in the postseason do we have to watch him? What do you have, like 13 strikeouts in like 7 games? And like 2 hits maybe? How is any of this acceptable to Hal? How can you be an owner of the most storied franchise in sports and your plan every single year is just hoping for bounce back years from aging veterans and unproven commodities? You are the New York Yankees. Go fucking act like it for once since the turn of 2020. Please. Yeah, the Mets signed Luke Weaver the other day. That happened. Is David Stearns okay? What is his issue? What is his obsession with New York Yankee castoffs? I don't even know how many this is at this point. Is it like, do you think you're going to turn them into a better player? Because you're as bad as the Yankees have been at scouting players and developing them, the Mets have not been doing much better. Who is it now? It's Juan Soto, Clay Holmes, Frankie Montas, Harrison Bader, now Luke Weaver. I feel like I'm still missing guys, but whatever. At least Steve Cohen got his casino permit, and Flushing is going to have that there for them now. So the Mets are going to be able to compete with a casino in their parking lot. That's nice. I know that was a lot of ranting, and this year, I feel like I should be practicing gratitude a little bit more, because I am so grateful for all of you who have listened to me in these first couple episodes and stuck with me while I put myself out here. And I'm hoping that this show continues to grow and I continue to brighten your days, hearing me rant and giving you guys something to, I don't want to say empathize, but just there's other people that probably feel what you're feeling right now that you don't want to go to WFAN to hear from. You don't want to go to Barstool Sports because they don't take it as seriously probably as I do. And I'm just grateful that I'm in this position right now to be able to talk to you all. So if I don't talk to you guys until 2026, I'm not sure what my plan is for recording. I'm going to be away from my setup for the next couple weeks. Let me be the first to wish you all a happy new year. And I'm hoping that everyone and everything in 2026 is better than 2025 and we continue to grow together. And I don't know really where I'm going with this. I just wanted to say something nice. So I think I'm going to sign off with a little old phrase that I think most of us know. And it goes, Merry Christmas to all. And to all, a good like, comment, and subscribe. See you all next time on the next edition of Six Borough Sports. Appreciate you all. Bye.